Welcome back to the Digressor. This is Trevor, and today I'm discussing Star Wars. You're probably thinking, hey, didn't you already do a Star Wars episode? Yes, I did. I did an episode titled Star Wars. And for that episode, it's actually my second episode I've ever did. And for that episode, I discussed the franchise, the whole franchise as a whole, and I mostly focused on some of the Star Wars Legends content, specifically the Galaxy of Fear book series, which I grew up with and was a huge fan of. But I didn't really talk too much about, the franchise as a whole. I mean, I did, but I didn't. Star Wars, it's so big to be contained into one episode. I kind of wanted to do this all along, but I was like, I already did a Star Wars episode. I would just be treading to the same ground. And then I realized I could just basically do what I've been doing with the MCU episodes. I am going to do this in parts. This is going to focus on the original trilogy. And then each season I'll focus on the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, and maybe do other episodes where I talk about some of the spin-offs. I don't really know exactly how I'm going to do this. I just know that there's more to talk about Star Wars than just some of the Legends content. But before I get into that, I just want to kind of you probably notice that the audio sounds a lot better than it has before. And I have to, this is the first time I've recorded an episode with this. I have a brand new microphone, and it is a HyperX. Wow. You know what? I am going to look it up because I don't remember exactly the name of it. I literally just tweeted about it. HyperX Quadcast 5. It arrived tonight. I took a big chance on this. The reason I did this, I don't know if you could tell. If you listen to my other podcast, Casablanca, the movie podcast, I've been using I have a gaming headset, and I've been using that. And I actually did the last episode in here, the Mothman episode with it. And my laptop hasn't exactly been working with my microphones, so the last episode, I think the Mothman one, I did use that headset, but some of the Casablanca episodes recently, I've been using my phone, the Dolby On app, so it had kind of a doubled sound. It sounded like Eminem, how it sounds like he's singing over himself. I don't know the words. I know there's a specific word to use, and I don't know the words. I'm not smart enough, okay? And so it didn't sound that great, and so the reason I was having to use that is because the laptop wasn't really working with the headphone jack, and so I went to go buy on Amazon. I bought an adapter, a USB adapter for the headset, and it didn't fit because the two USB ports were right next to each other, and I had the external hard drive plugged in. I couldn't plug in the adapter, and I'm like, why are they so close? I even did a couple of videos on TikTok about it. And so I went to go buy a different one. I went to go buy a dongle adapter, And then I saw this. I accidentally went into a microphone rabbit hole, and I found this. I stumbled upon this microphone, and I was like, no, 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 I don't need a microphone. I need a dongle. I need an adapter. There's nothing wrong with my... But then I saw some of the reviews, literally, because there was video reviews, and there's one in particular. I didn't get the guy's name, but he was like, this is my test of this microphone, and it sounded so clear, and I'm like, there's no way. You know what? I'm going to take a chance. I got paid today. I took a chance, and I was like, I will say, this microphone was not cheap, like triple digits, and I was like, whatever, and I bought it. It was either this or a $10 dongle, and I plugged it in and I did a test audio, which I posted on Twitter a little bit ago, and I did the test audio and I played it back, and I was like, holy crap, that like sound quality was so good. I was not expecting it. It sounded like a professional podcast. It sounds like a real podcast. Which, Pixie, if Pixie, if you're listening to that, I know that you just glared at this. I was gonna say the screen. You glared at whatever you're listening to this on, because she always gets on to me for saying that I'm not a real podcast. Like, you're a real podcaster. And so, anyway, I know I had said in my introduction episode for this season that I had already recorded most of the episodes for this season, but I like this sound so much that I'm actually going to re-record some of the remaining episodes. Not all of them. Maybe all of them. I don't know. But yeah, definitely going to... I had recorded bits and pieces of the Star Wars episode. I was going to record here and there and just kind of piece it together, and I was really unsatisfied with it. So yeah, it was going to be the next episode. I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it like this. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to redo the whole thing. So here we go. So, starting with the first movie, which was originally called Star Wars. Here's something a lot of people don't seem to realize, especially the casual fans. They think it was always Episode 4: A New Hope, Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope, and I've actually heard people who were old enough to see it in theaters when it first came out. They have these false memories. Or maybe it was a Mandela effect. They say they remember seeing that in the screen. Star Wars and Episode 4, A New Hope. They remember that. But, I think it's, the obvious on that is their memory was replaced. They saw the update. It updated. George Lucas updated it, I think, in the 90s. And their memory, or I think it was, in the 90s, I remember they re-released Star Wars in cinema. The original trilogy in cinema, and people saw it on the big screen, so that probably replaced in their mind. They hadn't seen it since so long, so it's oh yeah, this is how it always was. And so yeah, it wasn't original. Okay, so I think there's a misconception, because George Lucas is always saying, oh yeah, when I wrote Star Wars, I wrote Anakin's backstory, so the prequel trilogy was already written, and I put that on the shelf, and I figured I would come back to that at a later date. And so I don't think that is entirely accurate. I think he did write the prequel trilogy a long time ago, but I don't think it came before the original trilogy. I don't think it was sitting on a shelf and he just wrote from there, because there were so many changes in the original version of Star Wars. Had so many different changes. And like any normal movie production, you're making a movie, like you're changing it as you go and like rewriting the script, and that's a common thing. It happens in a lot of movies where like sometimes they won't get like the script, like the finished script until the day of shooting, and that's normal for some movies. So if he had written the prequel trilogy before the original movie, why would that be a thing? So I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm just an idiot with a podcast talking like I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think the original name was like Legend of. I don't remember. Hang on. I actually need to. I did not research. I was just so excited to record the mic. I didn't even. Let's see. A New Hope. And mini pop album. That is not what I was looking for. Let's see if I could find the original name. It was like something in the Wills. And it's. Wait. Plot. No, not the plot. I'm looking for the history. The history. It doesn't have. Wait, production? Production. Flash Gordon? No. Okay, so while I'm looking for this, I do remember seeing an interview with George Lucas a long time ago where he said. Oh, wait. Journal of the Wills. There we go. That's the name. The original name for Star Wars was Journal of the Wills. And Luke Starkiller, which Starkiller has been used throughout the Star Wars, like Starkiller Base in the sequel trilogy. And the Jedi in The Force Unleashed, I forgot his name. But I remember seeing an interview with George Lucas a long time ago where he said that there was a certain type of movie he wanted to see, but it didn't exist. So he figured he would make it and sit back and watch all the copycats. And I always thought that was hilarious. And also made me feel better because there are so many copycats of Star Wars, and I would watch them and I'm like, oh, they're clearly ripping off Star Wars. I mean, that's so wrong. But then I see that interview and I'm like, oh, so he wants there to be ripoffs. And I'm sure he's happy. Well, I mean, he's definitely happy because, the payout from Disney, that was not a cheap purchase for them. But in regards to sitting back and watching all the copycats, yeah, he was set. Because that, started, a whole new genre of movies. And, well, that was cliche. I was going to say, it's like a whole other galaxy. Because it is a whole other galaxy. It's in a galaxy far, far away. A long time ago. Actually, speaking of a long time ago, when I think long time ago, I'm thinking ancient times. How long ago is long ago? Long time ago. I think we have an answer though. Because there was, I don't remember the details. I read this on a Cracked article years ago, cracked.com, where there was I think it was, the article was something like random cameos in a game. I don't remember what the game was. I don't remember the context, but there's this fighting game that took place in the 1600s or the 16th century or 1500s, something like that. I don't remember, but it took. I don't remember where it took place, Japan back then, or Europe or wherever it took place in the 1500s, 1600s, and it looked. I think it was a realistic kind of fighting game, but then out of nowhere, Yoda teleports in and you fight Yoda, I think it was like a cameo character or DLC or something. And then whenever you're done fighting him, if you win or he loses or whatever, he teleports back. And it was just so random. But like, I think it was meant to be a joke, or I don't remember exactly. But if we just assume for a minute that it's canon, that time period is a long time ago. So Star Wars took place in the 15th or 16th centuries. Hundreds. Because, yeah. Which, okay, I want to know, like, exactly how long ago. I already just discussed that. There is, okay, so in the first movie, it was A New Hope. It wasn't originally called that. We've been over that. In Star Wars, it ends with the Battle of Yavin. I believe that's the name. And that's where Luke Skywalker blows up the Death Star. And apparently it was such a big event that it reset time, because that's their date system, like how we have AD, BC, like before Christ. Well, they have ABY and BBY for their time before the Battle of Yavin and after the Battle of Yavin. But like, not a lot of people knew about that. Isn't that kind of the thing? Or like, see, the average people in the galaxy didn't know that first off, that he was Darth Sidious. They didn't know that, Emperor Palpatine, that was his name. Like, Darth Sidious, who's that? You say Darth Sidious, and most people will be like, who? But Emperor Palpatine, most people didn't know that he was a Sith Lord, or that Vader was a Sith Lord. I don't think people knew he was a Sith Lord. It's kind of obvious in retrospect. But the lightsaber in the Force thing kind of gives it away. But the average person didn't really know about all that. And from what I've read in like Legends stuff and all of that, the rule under the Empire wasn't that bad. So for the average person, it was like, okay, we were under the Republic, and now we're under the Empire. It's like whatever. But why was the blowing up of the Death Star big enough of an event to reset the date? Because, for one thing, it didn't end the Empire. It just blew up the Death Star. Vader survived. Palpatine wasn't even on it. Pretty much the only person that you killed on there was Tarkin, and the only important person. So, like, why would that have reset the time? Can you imagine if, like, we reset time, not when Jesus was born, but like there's a gang fight behind a Starbucks somewhere. This is before that Battle of Starbucks and after the Battle of Starbucks, and that's what we're going to base time on now. I don't know. I'm just speaking at this point. Okay, granted, I will say I'm not some Star Wars expert. I'm sure there's some reason behind it, some logic. I do know I read somewhere that the general population was not aware of what was going on with, the rebellion and, the Death Star. Well, they knew about the Death Star, obviously. You can't really miss that. Blowing up a planet. That's it's kind of hard to miss. But, like, in the prequel age, they retroactively now have, like, this Phantom Menace was, I think, like, it was, but, like, in the moment, what was the year. I know that's for us. Like, ow, I just hit the table the mic's on. I know that the dates are for us. I don't know if in the Star Wars universe they use those dates. I'm pretty sure they do because I have seen, yeah, like in some content. But like in universe, it just does not make sense for that to be when they reset the date, or even for them to even reset the date at all. Like it is kind of frustrating that even happened. I mean, I see why like it's an important date for us, like Star Wars fans, and like, oh, the first Death Star. It's kind of to signify, no, this is the first movie. No matter what, if they make 50 Star Wars movies, they're going to have the date. It's going to lead back to that first movie, unless something else happens and they reset time again. And I'm just talking about the first movie. In this second movie, actually, you know what? I should talk about when they were released, because something kind of interesting about the first movie when it was released. Let's see, because I was born May 25th, 1988. This movie was released May 25th, 1977. I was born exactly 11 years later. And I always thought it was funny, like same date and then double numbers, like 7-7, and then I was born 8-8. I don't know, I'm weird like that. So I always thought that was kind of interesting. It came out on my birthday, but like before I was even born. Let's see when. Wait, was this? Oh, the crew that made this would later form Industrial Light and Magic, which I actually have. I haven't been to Industrial Light and Magic and Lucasfilm, but I've been past there because I live in San Francisco, and I keep forgetting that I live in San Francisco. Okay, I don't forget I live in San Francisco. I know I live in San Francisco, but it's just it's kind of like I live in San Francisco, but then like I'm walking through the Presidio and I come across this building, and I look up, it says Lucasfilm, and I look over, and I see the other building, it says Industrial Light and Magic, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not in San Francisco, I'm in San Francisco. Like, it's like moments like that, I'm like, oh yeah, I live here. And the place where I work, there are, I'm not going to say who they are, but, where I work, we have a membership program where we put in people's names, and so we know our customers by name, and we have 3 regular customers who are celebrities. And when I realized that they were regulars, I was like, oh, that's right, I live in San Francisco. Yeah. But anyway, back to Industrial Light and Magic. Actually, no. I only mentioned Industrial Light and Magic because I saw that while scrolling. So Star Wars came out in 1977. The second movie, Empire Strikes Back, came out May 6th, 1980. It came out in Dominion Theatre? What's that? In the UK. It came out in London. Okay, it premiered in London, May 6, 1980, in one theater. It came out in the United States, May 21st, 1980. May 21st is my mom's birthday. I didn't even know that was the day that came out. So, the first one came out on my birthday. The second one came out on my mom's birthday. So, that's interesting. So, the second movie, which was, again, like I just said, The Empire Strikes Back, that's considered one of the greatest sequels of all time. And I didn't even touch on anything from the first movie, except for, I didn't touch on anything story-wise. back up. Let's talk about the first movie. And it's like a perfect example, like a modern example of like the hero's journey, and it's used it's used a lot. Like the Star Trek reboot, the first one J.J. Abrams made. It's basically like a shot for no, not shot for shot. It's like a point by point remake of the first Star Wars movie. When someone told me that, I'm like, no, it's not. And it is. It's Star Wars. The new Star Trek is the old Star Wars. And now the new Star Wars is the old Star Trek. Because now they're slow. Yeah. So, yeah. I want to get into the story of the first one, but it's like so cliche. I haven't watched it in a while because, yeah, like I said, this was kind of out of nowhere. I wasn't planning on doing this now. I was gonna like get the mic and be like, "Hey, test audio, yay!" But then it was like it sounded so good. I was excited. I'm like, "Record something, Star Wars episode." So, yeah, that's a thing now. I kind of want to rewatch them, but I'm almost a half hour into this, and I'm still. I've touched on the second movie, no, the name, and I haven't even barely touched the first one because, I'm disorganized. I do want to talk about, real fast, Alec Guinness. I thought that it was kind of interesting because from what I've seen, he actually kind of hated Star Wars. He hated his character. He hated the movie. He didn't see it as like a real movie, like serious movie. I'm doing the quote fingers like too much, but yeah, because he was like a dramatic actor. He was like on stage a lot, and he had a lot of serious roles. And so he did this role as like a space wizard and saying weird things like lightsaber and Darth Vader, light speeder. And so to him, it was silly, and he never took it seriously. And he hated when people came up to him and asked him about his Obi-Wan character. Because yeah. And it kind of reminds me of Harrison Ford. He famously, it kind of detests the fandom roles, I call. Like, to him, they're just roles. And I can see that. I can see, like, to him, I saw this interview with him. It was like one of the late shows. I forgot which one. I'm pretty sure this was scripted, but it was still funny, and this is a character with him. They had like somebody from the audience asking questions, and he was like, "Oh, in the first Indiana Jones, you did historical information. Is it true that blah 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 blah?" And Harrison Ford was like, "I don't know. I don't care." And I was like, "Oh, in Star Wars, this is he's like, I don't even know what that is." He was asked if it was a Force ghost in the sequel trilogy, and he was like, "I don't even know what a Force ghost is." And so, like, to him, they're just roles, which I get. But that's kind of like how Alec Guinness was with his role. Like, it was just, he didn't like it. And the only reason he agreed to come back for the sequel trilogy was if he was killed off in the first one. So, yeah. But I don't want to touch on that because that's 2 seasons away. Yeah, let's get to Empire Strikes Back. This is considered one of the greatest sequels of all time. And Yeah, I kind of have to agree. The first one was kind of, honestly, it is kind of basic. It is a great movie. I'm not gonna lie, but it is basic. And this one really steps it up. Yeah, I can see why it was basic, because it was limited budget. They didn't really know. They didn't really know what they were doing. I know George Lucas claims that he had a roadmap planned out from the beginning, but I've seen in many interviews like they didn't know what they were doing. They were just kind of throwing stuff together. So you can kind of tell, even with all the remasters and the special effects added later on, you can kind of tell it was just kind of thrown together. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it is a great movie. But when they get to the second one, they knew more. They had a better idea of what they were doing, and they really improved on the story and like took it further. And it wasn't just a repeat of the first one, which was great. It would have been really easy for them to just tell the exact same story, but they didn't. They expanded on the world, the galaxy, and yeah, it really is one of the greatest sequels of all time. And I think it's one of my favorites in the whole. I've never actually sat down to like rate the all of the movies, because that'd be really hard. I already know I'm probably never going to cover any of them in Casablanca, because I feel like if I cover one, I'd have to cover them all, and that's overwhelming. I mean, that's basically what this is. This technically it should be a Casablanca episode, but no, this is not gonna be a Casablanca episode. This is a digressor episode. But yeah, what I think is great is, one of the most iconic scenes in cinematic history is right there at the end. The famous spoiler. No spoilers for this. Okay, if you don't know by now, then why are you even listening to this? Like, Obi-Wan never told you about your father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. No, I am your father. No, it's not possible. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. Jumps. Yeah. I know that when they filmed that, I don't remember what the line the line that was actually spoken by the actor, because yeah, I think it's widely known that James Earl Jones, he dubbed it later, but the actor in the suit actually voiced, he spoke in the moment when they were filming, and then James Earl Jones would just come and dub it later. I don't remember what was said on scene. I saw they interviewed the guy. It was the guy who played Vader. I think he played it in all three. He like passed away a few years ago, and what's kind of messed up is he wasn't told that he was going to be replaced by James Earl Jones. He didn't know until he saw it at the premiere. I was like, wait, that's not me. But I'm very glad they changed the voice, because he has like this posh British accent, like the cliche villain, like Bond villain sound, and that voice coming from that mask, it's not as intimidating as James Earl Jones. It would have been far less iconic. But they apparently nobody knew. Like, most people didn't know what the truth was. I think Mark Hamill knew that the line was going to be dubbed to be "I'm your father," or yeah, "I'm your father." I didn't, because there's the Mandela effect. Okay, so I do remember Luke, I am your father. I remember that. But now it's, no, I am your father. But there is some residue. I saw a clip at one point. It was like ripped from an old VHS where he said, "No, Luke, I am your father," and I was like, that's close. Because I do remember that. I very distinctly remember that as a kid, because like my uncle was a big fan, so we watched Star Wars all the time. And so I remember, Luke, I am your father. And then there was that one that I saw, which admittedly could have been edited, but it had that old quality audio, and it was James Earl Jones. I don't think it was edited. I mean, even James Earl Jones himself remembers it being, Luke, I am your father, because like whenever he's asked to repeat it, like say the line, he's like, Luke, I am your father. And it's like, but now it's, no, I'm your father. Well, either way, the line wasn't spoken on set. In fact, nobody knew. It was kept a secret. And I think it wasn't known even by most of the cast and crew until the premiere. I'm pretty sure Mark Hamill knew, so he can get the actual response or reaction. Wait, what was the actual line spoken? Hi, I'm actually recording this after I did the whole episode. This was me looking up what the line that was spoken instead of I am your father. That search took like 5 minutes, and it's just me going, where is it? So I'm gonna I gave up looking. I couldn't find out what the line was, so I gave up. But I looked just now when I got to this part while editing, and I thought I would look it up and add in what I found. And I found out why I couldn't find the line, because I got this from monstersandcritics.com. Apparently the actor inside the costume was named David Prowse, and it says, because he still had the original script, and what was in the script is not what we saw on screen. It says, here is a look at what Prowse's script said. There is no escape, Vader said. Don't make me destroy you. The Emperor is strong with the Force, but the Force runs strong in the Skywalker line, and together we will overthrow him. I will complete your training, and we will rule the Emperor as equals. The Empire as equals. It then had him reach out to Luke in place of the line, I am your father. Luke screamed, no, and the script continued. Luke, we will be the most powerful in the galaxy, Vader said. You will have everything you could ever want. Do not resist. It is our destiny. That is when Luke fell. So that is why I couldn't find the line. The exact line where Vader reaches out and says, I am your father. He doesn't say anything. So it would have been a very different movie. Anyway, back to me from 2 hours ago. I looked and I couldn't find it, but I'm sure it's somewhere on the internet. I don't feel like looking that in depth. But anyway, that has led to some controversy because Obi-Wan, because again, this goes back to George Lucas claiming that he wrote the prequels before he filmed the first movie. However, he did not plan for Darth Vader to be Luke Skywalker's father. So, yeah, this was kind of a last-minute change. There was also plans to, at the end of the movie, Yoda implies that there's another meaning that there is a sibling, there's another child of Darth Vader out there. And we were going to find out who that was in the next movie. We're going to be introduced to Luke's sibling. And George Lucas didn't plan on that being Leia. He definitely wouldn't have had them kiss. People will not live that down, or they won't let him live that down. I'm pretty sure I saw an interview where he said, like, if I'd known that I was going to make her their sister, I would have had them kiss, or something like that. But, like, he didn't plan this that far in advance. It's not as planned out as he said it was. I've always really liked the ending of Empire Strikes Back. I mean, not just the plot twist, but also, like, the literal ending, like the last couple shots. Like, where they're, like, standing at... Okay, so before I describe this scene, now that I'm thinking about it, it is a little confusing, because you see a galaxy. They're standing on the edge of this ship. Like, the Millennium Falcon flies off, and there's, like, C-3PO and Leia and R2, and I don't remember who's all there. And you see a galaxy. Like, are they outside of the galaxy? Because I don't know what they're implying here. It is a weird shot now that I think about it. But the Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy, it's really a good example of how a trilogy should be. You get other examples like The Matrix and Back to the Future. Maybe not Back to the Future so much. Okay, basically the first entry could very easily be a standalone. No sequels made. Just make the first one. It's a full, complete beginning, middle, end story. It ends. End of story. It's good. And then you get that one's successful, so you make a sequel. And the end of that is a cliffhanger that leads to the third one. Pirates of the Caribbean did the same thing, where at the end of the second one, they have so many now that I forget which one's which. At the end of the second Pirates movie, where Captain Jack gets eaten by that Kraken, and they're like, "We can bring him back." Dun, 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 dun. And so, and then I was like, "Oh, I got to see the third one." Star Wars is the same thing, where the first one ends. And they could have never made another one, and it would have been, oh, this is a great movie. Then they made the second one. It ends on a cliffhanger. You got to see the third one. And the way that Empire ends, like not just like the literal shot, but like the feeling of it. It's like it has a cliffhanger feel. It's not a cliffhanger in a traditional sense. Like, I told someone it was a cliffhanger, they're like, how is it a cliffhanger? It feels like a cliffhanger. If they'd never made a third one, it's like, well, they're implying there's a third one. Come on, make a third one. I know it's been so long, it's been 40 years, make that third one. It's an emotional cliffhanger. There we go. That's... I don't know why I didn't think of that. And of course, we did eventually get a third one. I am stalling because I am trying to find the... Oh, there we go. The third one, The Return of the Jedi, came out May 25th, 1983. Again, on my birthday. So, the first one came out on my birthday, the second one came out on my mom's birthday, and the third one came out on my birthday. Yeah. This one... it's my least favorite of the three. And I don't know if it's because of the Ewoks or if it's because of the jungle setting. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why this one's always been my least favorite of the original trilogy. I mean, I think a lot more happens in this one, or maybe not. I don't know, because it feels like not a lot happens. Of course, again, I haven't seen it in a long time. I should probably have watched these again before making this and being like, yeah, nothing happens in the third one. It's like Yoda dies and that's it. I don't remember Yoda's. Okay, Yoda does this speech before he dies, and I saw this thing years ago where it's like one of the greatest speeches in cinematic history. I don't remember a word he says in his dying speech. He's like speaking as he dies, and I don't remember. Yeah, he like fades away. Like Yoda's so bored with Luke that he just dies. Like it doesn't even like when 900 years you are. Like yeah, he's very old. That's just yeah. So anyway, remember how earlier I said I don't know why the destruction. They blew up the first Death Star, and that was big enough for them to reset the dates. Yeah, like this should have been even bigger because they blew up the second Death Star. This time the Emperor dies and Vader dies. At least we think the Emperor dies. We'll find that out. Well, I'll discuss that in that episode, which is 2 seasons away. But that was a bigger deal, to the point where there were celebrations. It's in the special edition remaster, remake, not remake, in the special edition, the edited things where they added stuff. You see celebrations in like Coruscant and Naboo and like all these other places, and that didn't happen in the first one. At least we didn't see it. And again, it doesn't really make sense for everyone to be cheering because, again, the life under the Empire wasn't that bad. I mean, it was. I don't know. I'm not a Star Wars expert, but I did see I've seen a few things where like most people didn't even really notice because, again, like I said earlier, a vast majority of the public didn't even know that Emperor Palpatine and Vader were Sith Lords. And I'm sure even if they did know, like they wouldn't even know what a Sith Lord was. I don't know if they were that well known, like what a Sith Lord was. Because like even like Han Solo, like he's seen the galaxy. You see it in like the Solo movie where he was in the in the Imperial Army or military. I don't remember what he was in. I think he was in the Air Force. I don't remember. But he's seen the whole galaxy, and he doesn't believe the Jedi exist. Like, he doesn't believe in the Force. It's like he sees it as like hocus pocus or whatever. I don't know if he says that in that or Indiana Jones. Like hocus pocus nonsense is going to tell the direction of my life or whatever he said. I don't remember. It's only a famous line that gets quoted all the time. How should I know what the exact wording is? I think in this one, like once George Lucas realized he was going to have Leia be the sister, it was clear that Han and Leia had to be together. Of course, that really started in the second one. So, I love you. I know. And so, like, it was clear that they were going to be together. But, still can't get over that kiss, though. Like, how are you going to say you knew from the beginning, like, the story, the backstory, and then still have them kiss like that? Like, Nah. Of course, I always get annoyed when people bring it up, and here I am. I brought it up twice now. So, yeah. Actually, you know what? Speaking of the Ewoks, another thing I realize because of cracked.com is not one time throughout Return of the Jedi is the word Ewok even used. How do we know they're called Ewoks? We just know that they're called Ewoks. Which is kind of funny, actually. It's kind of like Humpty Dumpty. Like, like Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses, all the king's men never put Humpty together again. Where in that does it say that he's an egg? It doesn't. And that's the same thing with the Ewoks. Nowhere in the movies is the word Ewok even used. So, like, that's one of the Mandela effects. Like, I could have sworn C-3PO, whenever he's, like, talking in their language and they think he's a god, he's like, oh, this is the Ewok. These are Ewoks, and they believe I'm a god, and they want to eat you. But, like, he doesn't. Not once in the movie did they say the word Ewok. And there's a thing I saw a while back, years and years and years ago, which it seems obvious now, but like when I first heard it, I was like, oh, wow, where the word Ewok is like the sounds are switched from Wookiee, which is what Chewbacca is, like Wookiee and Ewok, which makes sense because like the Ewoks are like miniature Wookiees. Or little teddy bears. But yeah, as I said, the Return of the Jedi it's I still like it. It's just not my favorite. It's my least favorite actually, and Empire Strikes Back is my favorite of the trilogy. I did grow up watching all three. Because I remember watching it at my uncle's house. We actually lived with him for a little bit. And I remember he'd watch it sometimes, and I'd watch it with him. And he's the one that got me into Star Wars. And he was a big nerd, too. And so, yeah. When he had a Darth Vader helmet sitting on his dresser, and so like before I even saw the movie, I saw that, and I'm like, that's a scary head. And then so like we watched Star Wars, I'm like, oh, that's the head on your dresser. Yeah, good times. And so I was afraid of Darth Vader as a kid. I had nightmares where like he was like chasing me down hallways and stuff. So, it sounds weird now because it's like, yeah, it's like it's Darth Vader. But like, it was terrifying at the time. I think that all the whole backstory thing of the prequels when they made them, it kind of like demystified Darth Vader, so he's not as scary anymore. It's just some guy that was tortured, which actually that's kind of terrifying. I'll get into that when I do this prequels episode, because I got a lot more to say about the prequels, because technically that's what I grew up with, because like I grew up with the original trilogy, but it was like, I don't know, I saw the prequels more than I saw the original trilogy. So like I wasn't like a big Star Wars fan until the prequels. Like, I wasn't a big Star Wars fan until the prequels. Like, I liked them. I knew what they were. But it wasn't until the prequels that I was like, oh, Star Wars! I was Darth Maul for Halloween 99. But I will get into that in that episode. Nah. I kind of want to get into some of the spin-off stuff now, because like some of it's tied into the original trilogy, but also it's modern. Like, like the Boba Fett series, The Mandalorian. I think I will do a special spin-off episode. I mean, an episode about the spin-offs. Like, Boba Fett started off in the original holiday special as like an animated side character, and he ended up being one of the most beloved characters for no reason, by the way. He didn't really do anything. It was implied that he was a bigger deal than he ended up being, because like Vader was like, no vaporizing. Yeah, it's there's a fan theory I heard somewhere. I think it was on crack.com. I used to read that all the time. There was a fan theory I read somewhere that it wasn't the stormtroopers that killed Luke's aunt and uncle. It was Boba Fett, because they were vaporized. All that was left was a skeleton. Stormtroopers notoriously have bad aim. Vader specifically told Boba Fett not to vaporize these other people. I forgot who contacted the scene. I forgot who told him not to vaporize. Might have been Luke. I don't know. But anyway, Boba Fett potentially killed Luke's aunt and uncle. However, there's, canonically now this isn't true. I was going to say the stormtroopers were only bad because, but then, yeah, so there's another theory that the only reason the stormtroopers were so bad at aiming in the original trilogy is because they were told to bring Luke alive, not to kill him. So they were trying not to kill Luke and his friends. Which, that makes sense, and I would go with that, except now, in further canon, it's even more emphasized how bad at aim they are. Like in, believe it's Mandalorian, when they're shooting, like there's two stormtroopers, or maybe it might have been in... I don't remember where it was. It's either in The Mandalorian or in the last one of the last Star Wars movies, the sequel trilogy, where there's two stormtroopers trying to shoot they're trying to shoot something that's like 5 feet away, and neither one of them could shoot it, and so it's like, I don't know, they just really are a bad aim. I love that they're able to joke about that, like, in canon. The humor in Star Wars, like, there used to not be that much humor. Like, it originally wasn't specifically meant for kids. Like, the original trilogy, like, there's amputations, there's blood, there's swearing, there's some, like, really intense stuff for kids. Like I said, like the original trilogy gave me nightmares as a kid. And whenever the prequels came out, George Lucas was like, we need to sell toys, so he directed it. He aimed it at children. So like now it's seen as like a little kids thing. Oh, Star Wars is for kids. It wasn't always for kids, and so there wasn't a lot of humor in the original trilogy. There is some funny moments, but it's not like in the sequel trilogy where the opening of The Last Jedi. Is this thing on? Can you hear me? I'm trying to reach the commander. Yeah, like you go from the original trilogy, no humor or limited humor, to the sequel trilogy, or too much humor. It's like, where's the middle ground? For the most part, like I said in my original Star Wars episode, I know some people are like, oh, the original trilogy is better, the sequel's better, the prequel is better. I just embrace all Star Wars, or at least that's what I did say. I did say I embrace all Star Wars, but I think I'm going to start changing my mind, because I tried watching Andor, and it is so boring. I don't know anybody who has watched past the first episode. So maybe I don't embrace all Star Wars, but I embrace most Star Wars. Backing up a little bit to A New Hope, this kind of goes into spin-off territory. The opening crawl. There's like a little paragraph, like 4 lines, talking about how the rebels just got a hold of the plans for the Death Star. It's kind of a throwaway line. It's like, oh, how they get it? Oh, they somehow got the plans. And I love the fact that they were able to take that little sentence and turn it into one of the best pieces of Star Wars ever. Like, Rogue One is amazing. And I've seen this supercut of, well, I didn't watch the full, like 3-4 hour movie of them edited together, but I saw like the 5 minutes for the end of Rogue One and the beginning of A New Hope, where like somebody edited it together. They took out the credits, and it's like the last shot of Rogue One, and then it went to the first shot of A New Hope, and it worked. They made it in a way that it flows perfectly, and I love that. They took this plot hole that everybody was making fun of for years. Like, why would they design that little flaw in the Death Star where you shoot the little tiny hole and the whole thing blows up? And they took that little plot hole and they took those few lines from the opening crawl and they made an amazing movie out of it. And they explained it. There's a reason it was put there. It was put there on purpose by someone who was going to sabotage the Death Star, for the rebels. And I just think that's great. Star Wars can still be great. I know, like, a lot of people hate, they hate what Disney's doing with Star Wars. They hate the sequel trilogies. They want them to redo it or make it not canon. And if you look at, like, the Clone Wars, like, people hated the prequel trilogy. They're like, oh, it's ruined, and let's not make them canon. Let's redo the prequels. But then they took the prequels and they did the Clone Wars. I haven't seen all of the Clone Wars, but I know, like, from what I've seen, like, the fandom in general say that they basically redeem the prequels because they take, like, some of the worst elements and kind of, like, expand on it and make them better. And I'm getting into prequel territory here, aren't I? I'm supposed to be focusing on the original trilogy. I will go more into this next season because I'm going to do them in the order that they were released. I'm doing the original trilogy now. I'm doing the sequel trilogy. Next I'm doing the prequel trilogy next season, followed by the sequel trilogy, and then spin-offs and stuff after that. I don't know. I'll try not to go too much into it between then and now. I mean, now and then. Because I'm traveling backwards. I didn't think if there's anything else I could add to the... There's a plenty. I could talk for like 6 hours about the original trilogy and everything about it and all of that. But I don't want to make a 6-hour episode because nobody will watch or listen to a 6-hour episode. I'll be lucky if they listen to this. And it's currently just over an hour, so... yeah. I'm going to end this one here. My first episode with this microphone, which I've only owned for like 3 hours. Anyway, have a good